Hello everyone! Today's topic is creating our own custom file uploader with an animated progress bar without using any third-party packages. In many cases, when we need a file uploader in our projects, we typically reach out for third-party packages to get that fancy upload progress bar we all see on the web. Of course, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I have done that myself in many of my past projects, but just for fun and out of curiosity, we will build our own custom multiple file uploader with a progress bar without relying on any third-party packages. And honestly, it's very easy to implement. So, here's an example of what we are going to build today. We have this browse files component here, allowing us to select single or multiple files for upload. So for example, let's pick these two files, then click upload. And as you can see, there's a progress bar at the bottom of each file. After one file upload is completed, it will be removed from the list. Let's wait for the second file to complete. Once the upload is finished, we can check if the files have been uploaded to our storage directory. And as you can see, here are the two files we just uploaded. And we will also implement some basic validation, ensuring we can only upload files under a specified size limit. So when we try to upload a large file, for example, this one, it will provide us with a clear feedback on what went wrong. And all of this is done with a simple JavaScript and CSS transitions, while the file uploading is handled with Laravel. Okay, let's get started. Here's our base template. By the way, I will link the project files in the video description so you can try it out yourself. In my Laravel app, within the dashboard component, I've already included some simple states and some of the markup to save us some time. So this is the template for our browse file component you saw earlier. Right now, it's just a normal div tag. And as you may know, the default look of the file input doesn't really look that good. So if we put an input element here with a type set to file and take a look in the browser, you can see how it looks by default. It's not very appealing, so we are going to create a workaround to make this big box act as the file input element. To do that, we'll make a reference for this input element. Let's say the ref is equal to file input ref. At the top, we'll declare this reference with const file input ref equals useRef and initialize it to null. And make sure the useRef hook is imported at the top. So if you're using Vue or other JavaScript frameworks, you can do the equivalent here. The next step is to hide the file input element. So we will give it a class name of hidden. I am using Tailwind CSS here to quickly style our components. Then at the browse file div tag, I will give it an on-click event handler. So let's say file input ref.current. So this is to check first if the reference exists, and then file input ref.current.click. So when we check this in the browser, you will see that the default file input element is gone. And then when we click this browse file element, we will have the same functionality as a regular file input element. This allows us to browse the files we want to upload. Then after this, we will give the input element an onChange event handler. Let's say onFileChange. This will be our event listener when we browse files. Since this div tag is referenced in our input element, we are still using it. It's just hidden, but the file input still works. Our file input, which is now hidden, is still what will provide or upload our files to our storage. So up here, we will declare the onFileChange function and accept the event. So for now, let's log the event to the console and expect the data passed to this function. Let's go back to the browser and open the developer tools. On the console tab, let's try browsing files. For example, this image. In the console output, we can see the data from our onChange event. The most important part here is the target property because it contains our files. Okay, here it is. The files property, which is an array of objects, Since we attach only one file, there's only one object here. So here it is. Okay, let's go back to the code editor. So next, we will declare a selected files variable. Here, we will retrieve the array of the attached files from our file input component or element. As you saw earlier, our files are stored in an array within the event payload. So let's say array.from, then event.target.files. Then we will update our file state, which is defined up here. This state holds the files that we will upload. So let's say prev_files. Since our file state is an array, we will set the value of the selected files to this state. After that, we will clear the file input after attaching the files. So let's say if input ref.current exists, then set file input ref.current.value to an empty string. Let's try this in the browser to see how it behaves. Open the DevTools, and here in my file state, you can see it's currently an empty array. And if I browse for a file, you will see that this array is now populated with the file I just attached. Right now, it only allows me to attach one file. So let's quickly add a multiple attribute to our file input to accept multiple files. Let's also go ahead and add an accept attribute to restrict the file types that we can upload. Let's only accept JPEG and PNG files. Of course, you can specify different file types depending on your needs. Okay, let's try this again. Refresh the page and browse for files. And as you can see, I can now select more than one image. And if I select these two, you can see that these files nicely displayed on the list here. If you check the file state again, you can now see there are two files here. Perfect. As you may have noticed, the list of files is already styled. And I actually prepared those styles beforehand, but it's just a very simple markup. And let me show you quickly. If you go down here, this is the simple markup for our progress bar. It's actually just two nested div tags. Let me add a comment first to identify these tags. This one is the progress bar, and just above it is the list of files to be uploaded. Here at the bottom is the upload button. There's already a condition that it will only show if the isUploading state is false and files.length is greater than 0. This means that it will only show if there are files ready to be uploaded and the upload hasn't started yet. So this is the upload button. And it's time to write the logic so we can start uploading files. Let's give this button an onClick event handler that calls the onFileUpload function. At the top, let's declare this function. Let's define a simple validation first. So if files.length is equals to 0, we will show an error message using setError with the message no file selected. If there are no files selected, we will return early to prevent further execution. And of course, make sure the error state is declared here so we can properly display any error messages. So after this, let's set the isUploading state to true to indicate that the uploading process has started. This will allow us to hide certain UI elements on the page during the upload. We'll see that in action later. But first, let's start writing the process to upload the files themselves. Since we can attach 2 or more files, we need to loop through all of them to upload each one individually. I will create a new form data variable and set it to a new instance of the form data class. Then we can append the attached files to this new form data like this. Form data.append, giving it a type of file and passing the file from our loop. Next, we'll perform the HTTP request to actually send the files to our backend. I will use Axios for this. So we'll say axios.post. The endpoint will be upload, and we'll pass the form data as the data of our request. Okay, after this, we can set some options, particularly the headers for our request, making sure that the content type is set to multipart /form data, since this is required for uploading multiple files in an HTTP request. Let me just add a comment here. Next, after setting the headers, we can also call the onUploadProgress method provided by Axios, so we can track the progress of our upload. We can pass an argument, which I'll call progress event. Here we can calculate the progress of the upload in percentage. So I'll declare a %completed variable and do some calculations here to make it more human readable. I'll use the math function in JavaScript, math.round. Then I will take the loaded property from the progress event, multiply it by 100, and divide it by the total size of the file, which is progressEvent.total. And let me correct a typo here. So first, I will log the progress event to the console to inspect what it contains. Going back to the browser, I'll clear the console first. So if I try to upload 2 files, you can see we have 2 logs here. If you inspect one of them, you can see the total and the loaded properties. The total property is the file size in bytes. So here we have about 6 million bytes, which is about 6 megabytes. The loaded property is the total uploaded bytes. So using this data, we can calculate the total progress of our upload as a percentage. And that's exactly what we did a while ago. Okay, so let's try outputting the upload progress in percentage this time. I'll delete this console log. And then here, I'll log the %completed variable in the console. Let's go back to the browser and try this again. As you can see, here's the upload progress in percentage. It's showing 100 right now because the upload is so fast. So later, I will throttle the network speed so we can see the progress bar moving. Next, let's set our upload progress state to reflect the upload progress so we can see the progress bar animating towards completion. I'll set the upload progress state here. Remember, this is an object that contains each file's upload progress. So prev progress, then provide the %completed variable to the file, which we will output an array like this. And remember, this upload progress state is declared at the top. Now let's try it in the browser. In the network tab, I will throttle the network speed so we can see the progress bar moving. Then I'll open the components tab so we can see the state updating as well. Now I will upload the 2 files from before. And look, we can see the progress bar moving, as well as the state in our Components tab. I will stop this for now so we can continue writing the code to complete the upload. I will disable the throttling for now. Okay, so let's continue by handling the upload request response when it is successfully completed. In the then method, we'll take the response from the backend. After the files are uploaded, we will remove the files from the list of items if the upload succeeds. So we'll call setFiles, then filter the item that needs to be removed from the array so the uploaded item will disappear from the list. We will filter it by file name like this. And we will also update the progress bar for each uploaded file. So we'll call the setUploadProgress, take the previous value, and declare a new progress variable, setting it to a copy of the previous progress value. Since this is an object, we will use the delete function in JavaScript to attempt to delete a property from the new progress object using the file name as the property key. Now, the next step is to create the controller so we can actually accept the files and save them in our app's storage directory. In the terminal, let's create a new controller. I'll call this upload controller and set it as an invocable controller. Let's open the controller to write a simple logic to upload the files. I will change the comment first. Then let's check if the request has a file named file, which is what we name our form data. If it does, we'll declare a path variable, use the storage facade to put the uploaded files in a folder called uploads, and pass the actual file from the request as the second parameter. Then we'll return a JSON response with a path key, passing the path variable, and give it a 200 response code to indicate it was successful. If the request doesn't contain a form data named file, we'll return an error response. So we'll say return response, which is a JSON response, with an error key and the message no file uploaded, giving it a 400 error status code to indicate an error. Okay, after this, we need to declare our endpoint in our web.php route file. I will put the upload endpoint inside the auth middleware group. So you need to be logged in first before you can upload files. I'll quickly check the endpoint name to ensure it's named correctly. Okay, it is. And by the way, before we test this, I'm going to create the uploads folder really quick. And whoops, I made a mistake and I created the file instead of a folder. Okay, so now let's test this. I'll go back to the browser and throttle the network speed again so we can see the progress bar moving. Let's upload the images again. Now we can see the progress bar moving, and in the network tab, we can see the two files being uploaded simultaneously. Let's wait for this to complete. And I will also fast forward a little bit to save us some time. As you can see, after the first one is uploaded, it is removed from the list. In the network tab, you can see the status is 200, indicating it was successfully uploaded. And the other file has been uploaded successfully as well. To verify that these files are uploaded, let's check our storage folder. In the uploads folder, and there you go. The two images are there. Okay, good, it's working. In our post requests, let's declare a mechanism to catch errors should they occur. In the catch method, I'll accept an error. If there's an error, we'll set the error state with a message like upload failed for file, then specify the file name of the file. Then in the finally function, after all the files are uploaded, let's do some cleanup here by setting the isUploadingState to false and clearing the upload progress object and the error state if there are any errors. As you may have noticed, I have an if condition here. It essentially checks if the current index is equals to the last index, meaning the last file has been uploaded. And if it's true, then we'll perform the state resets that you see here. I also put this in a set timeout function with a delay of 300 milliseconds because when I tried this before, it wasn't clearing up the entire contents of the upload progress object for some reason. I honestly don't know why it's behaving that way, but for now, that's a workaround I came up with. Now for the last step. Let's add a simple validation to reject the files that are more than 10 megabytes in size here on the front end. In my local dev environment, I have a limit of 10 megabytes for file uploads. So here in the browser, when I try to upload a large file, for example, a file that is more than 10 megabytes in size, we get an error as you can see here. We can actually handle this in the backend using Laravel's request validation, but let's try to implement it in the front end. So here inside the onFileChange function, let's create a variable called validFiles to filter the files that are more than 10 megabytes in size. Let's have a simple calculation here. To get 10 megabytes, multiply 10 by 1024 to get 10 kilobytes, then multiply it again by 1024 to convert it to megabytes. Then we'll have a simple condition here. If file.size is greater than the max size we declared, we'll set an error saying file size of this file exceeds the 10 megabyte limit. Then we will return false, otherwise we'll return true. And let's also clear the error first every time we attach a new file. Next, down here is our error alert. This is just a simple div where we'll show the error message, which will only appear when there's an error. Let's quickly add a comment here saying show error if there's any. Now back to the browser. I'll try to upload a large file. This file right here is more than 10 megabytes, so let's try it. And as you can see, there's our error message. Now, as you may have noticed, the file we attached is still shown along with the upload button. The reason for this is because we have this validFiles variable here, but we never actually use this value anywhere. This variable contains only the files that are less than 10 megabytes in size. So in our setFiles function, instead of setting it to the selected files array, which contains all files we uploaded, including those greater than 10 megabytes, we will set it to validFiles, like this. So if we try this again, refresh the page, and if I upload that file again, as you can see, it only shows the error message and doesn't include the file that was rejected. Now let's try to upload all of the files this time. And as you can see, it only includes the two other files that are less than 10 megabytes in size and excludes the larger file. Okay, let's try to upload these files again. I will throttle the network speed. As you can see, it uploaded just the two files because the larger file is not included in the upload queue. To verify that, let's check the upload directory. Yes, there are only 4 files here. The other 2 were from the first batch we uploaded earlier. And last step, let's hide the upload button when the upload starts to prevent the user from browsing for files again while we are uploading some files. This is very easy. So let's go to our code, then down here. Here's our giant browse file button. We'll only show this button when we are not uploading any files. Now let's go back to the browser and try this again. As you can see, when the upload initiates, the browse file button disappears. Then, when the upload completes, it reappears. And, of course, the file is successfully uploaded. Okay, that's it, guys. For me, it is not that difficult to implement interactive upload progress indicators like this. You can also experiment with different progress bar styles if you want, since we only use CSS animations with Tailwind CSS and simple JavaScript for calculating the progress percentage without pulling any third-party packages, other than Axios for our HTTP calls. Okay, that's it guys. Thank you for watching. See you next time.